This is Managing Mayhem.
Brought to you by two lawyers and a layman.
Because good intentions are not a legal defense.
Wait, I'm sorry, they're not? Okay, well, let's get going then. Hello and welcome to Managing Mayhem with Patty, Jeff, and Jack. Today we are talking about a very important time of the year. We're talking about March Madness.
Woohoo!
Is that right?
This is you're correct. This is the best time of the year.
Besides
Yeah.
Besides Christmas.
Comparable.
I don't know. I mean, this is some people's Christmas.
Yeah.
And I'll say
Lasts
this.
longer.
Yeah, lasts more than a day. So this week kicks off. The thing that's kind of unique and why we're bringing it up is that the majority of March Madness, unlike the Super Bowl or other major sporting events, the beginning of March Madness occurs during the work week. Right. All day during the work week. And so,
really
especially
perfect
the back
for us.
half of this week.
So it's that time of year where work productivity comes to a screeching halt, is what you're saying.
Thank God.
Maybe.
Maybe
I
not.
think I think arguably we're all testing our multitasking skills.
Yes.
Now, it's
Yeah.
not a coincidence that all three of us, for those who are not watching this via YouTube, we are all wearing UCLA Bruin ball caps. So
That's right.
we might have some slight bias to who we're cheering for, but
I think it was
Well,
brainwashing, mostly
this is a
powerful
product of-
household brainwashing.
This is what happens when you brainwash your child.
Right.
children,
All.
to follow UCLA. And we've been fans. I mean, I know they're looking at potentially, and we're, shockingly, this is not recorded Monday morning. And so we don't know the selection Sunday, but we're in the hunt
Still.
for one of those one seeds.
Mm-hmm.
we're fourth
but-
in the country.
Right. But
And
we've
here's
been with the Bruins
Along the whole
our
time.
entire lives.
And as
so
someone
there was
who's
a chunk of time, they weren't great. And we were with
Right.
them.
Right. I was going to say, for someone who's been a little more on the back seat of watching the viewership, is that UCLA has had its ups and its downs, and it's been a wild ride, but we've always
Right.
shown up for the Bruins.
Yeah,
Because
the
Bruins always show up.
football program's a little more inconsistent, but the
There's a
UCLA
little
Basketball. Basketball is a sweet spot.
Right.
Yes.
So let's talk about March Madness and how it affects the workplace today. Although I could talk about the Bruins for the whole 30 minutes and my concern
Right.
about Jalen Clark being out. But Jack, we're going to lose Jack on that, so I don't want to.
Yeah, let's change this. Let's keep going.
So
Keep it coming.
for
Even
those
though I
of
am
you-
worried about him.
Yes. For those of you who are not that familiar, it's a long event. It lasts 3 weeks. There's 67 games. Like Jeff said, it airs during the workday predominantly, the first few weeks. And it is a tempting diversion. And really, it is inevitable that March Madness, to some point, will grip your office.
It could become March sadness
Exactly.
if the Bruins have a bad year.
For us, at least.
Yes.
We may be taking 3 weeks off
Yes.
just to mourn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basketball bereavement.
Just wearing a
Right.
veil and a uniform.
Well, and the reality is that many employees, whether they're basketball fans or not, are going to be trying to fill out brackets. That's really the big draw to March Madness, are completing brackets and having a good old-fashioned betting pool.
Oh.
2 times more money is spent on March Madness, or wagered on March Madness, than the Super Bowl. So
Wow.
this is the largest betting
That's
event for Americans.
That's a shock. I'm not a big bettor, but I did go to a Super Bowl party this year, and it was very weird because it was a guy who was very into betting, and there was no one at the party, just a bunch of chairs, like he was expecting a lot of people there. And then he was just on his phone the whole time, just tracking the bets. And I was like, oh, this is like kind of like not super fun for me. So I started playing Risk with the 10-year-old who was there. But then he was like, we were like, oh yeah, he's like, oh no, I'm counting on this for rent. And I was like, oh no, what?
Just like,
That's
meanwhile, the
scary.
little kid's like, I'm attacking you from Alaska to Kamchatka.
Meanwhile,
Like,
the
what
kid
the
has
hell?
all of South America.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. Anyway, so
Anyways, cool story.
All right, fun. But that,
I wonder what his plans are for March Madness.
hopefully, he's still making rent.
Right.
So,
But
there-
the reality is this. I will say this. So
Yeah,
everyone
finish that.
wages. There's a lot of wagers. There's
Right.
brackets. But the big thing that you also see is people on their phones checking scores, watching the games in the office, at work.
Right.
It's fun.
And it's fun. People want to know.
Yeah, back off. It's fun, okay?
Back off, Jack.
Back off. I love the game. Okay, well, and there were, I looked at stats, which is crazy for me to do a little research, but I was super.
For you to look at numbers or
Yeah.
to
No.
do the research?
Kind of both. I tried to type in this number into my calculator. So the first thing that came up that was really surprising was that U.S. employers lose around an average of $13.3 billion
Wow.
in productivity during this 3-month period of the tournament.
3-week period? Yeah.
Did I say 3-month? Feels like
Yes.
it. Really feels like it at a point.
This is...
Why won't it stop? But I tried to type in 13 billion into my calculator and it wouldn't go that high. So,
Wow.
anyway,
The other thing is
me
that
problem.
you can calculate it down to each hour spent watching games at work, and it can cost employers about, they said, 2.1 billion each hour. So
That's
it's
Wow.
like,
crazy.
wow. The other thing that I thought was interesting was that nearly half of all workers, and I think it's probably even more, but spend around 6 hours of work time during March Madness while they're on the clock watching either March Madness or working on their brackets. That's a lot. That's
There's
75
a lot
million
of
people.
sneaky ways.
Well, I
Sneaky
will-
places to put your phone.
There's sneaky places to put your phone, especially with AirPods. You got like one in, and
Oh my
you got
God.
the phone kind of tucked away.
Then you could just start talking to and pretend like, yeah, no, the agreement will be finished by 5. And
Yeah,
people
I have to say, our
immediately think-
family did have a low moment. We were once at a wedding during a March Madness game, and we propped it under the centerpiece. And
Yeah.
Jack had to scold us to stop.
Annie and I were just like, you guys, love is happening here, and you have no reverence for what this is.
So
And you guys would just
sorry
be like in the
about
corner,
that.
like, oh,
Oh. Darn.
We're gonna bleep that
gee
one out.
whiz. Oh god.
Yeah, exactly. We would.
We were upset.
Yeah,
were
massively
upset.
upset.
We were upset, and that's part of the brainwashing. Yeah, it's
Okay.
a lot of time. It's a lot of time, but it's
It's
worth
time
it,
well
you
spent.
know, because I think right, is it time well spent? You know, is there an upside to it? You know, even though there's a 13.3 billion loss in productivity,
Right.
but
What
is there some upside to it?
is there?
Let's
I
find
mean,
out.
yeah. I mean, is there like what do employees do? Because those stats to me seem just like, whoa, this needs to be. We need to get a little bit of a handle on how we don't want
Right.
to lose that much over basketball. You know,
I
I've already
think-
lost all of my emotional stamina. I'm exhausted.
I think most studies show that the majority of employees find it as a team building and a positive perception of their workplace culture if you don't
Yeah.
ignore March Madness, because people are so into it. And so if you
Right.
don't take that opportunity to embrace it a little bit, and if you're just the Grinch, then you're going to have some morale issues. And the other thing I see is that they're going to do it anyway. And so if you say we're not recognizing this exists, then it's really going to be counterproductive to you, because everyone's going to be sneak peeking and doing
Right.
their own thing, and they're
They're
going to be
gonna watch it
draining.
anyways.
Yeah,
they're gonna. I mean, they're gonna be checking the scores anyways, and so
Your
If
internet's
you're
going to
do it, I'd rather
grind.
you do it in the house. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right. Exactly.
And your internet's going to
Exactly.
grind to a complete stop, you know,
Right.
because if
Right.
you don't address it to some degree.
mm-hmm.
So some balance is going to be important, you know, for you to decide what are you going to set a hard line on, what are you going to compromise on, what
Right.
are you going to do with it. You are going to have to address it as a manager.
okay, so what are some what are some things that people can do? Like what would compromise look like? Or
Well, I think you need to look at, and you know, every business is different, and so you do need to decide what you want to allow, and then communicate those expectations clearly to staff. Are you going to allow people to watch it? Are you going to allow there to be a bracket? Or you know, what are you going to allow, and how much productivity loss are you going to be able to justify as team building?
Right.
And so you do need to, because the company still has to operate those
Right.
days, right? You're
It's
not
like
shutting down.
if the internet is just being all sucked up and one person who doesn't like watching basketball is like trying to actually send one single email.
I can't
and
download
cannot.
this PDF.
Yeah,
Please, someone hop on.
And just like wait an hour and a half for the game
You
to
could
be
get a little low morale resentment if that's the case. So I think we should
Right.
talk about some fun activities that
Right.
companies do. So one thing is they let, and this isn't involving not working. They just allow them to wear their favorite ball cap or their favorite clothing, shirts, apparel to work, supporting their team in March Madness. There's a lot of teams in it. So I like that idea. The other one is it's along the same theme, allowing them to decorate their workspaces in either the team colors, team mascot, if it's politically correct, things like
Great.
that. So
We love clothing, shirts, and apparel. They're all, clothing,
Allow them
shirts,
to
and
throw
apparel.
eggs at their rivals.
We love a little bit of off workplace food fight violence.
right.
Food fight violence. Are you getting hit by an egg?
Actually, no.
No. Okay.
No.
Well, good
Okay.
for you. Another thing you can do is you can actually put up a large bracket in like your break room or something, and have someone updating that. So when people walk by or grabbing water, they'll be in the loop.
Yeah.
Another thing that's kind of fun, if people are gonna if people aren't gonna be working, give them an option to just use some PTO or a flex schedule based around the games, if you can allow for that. But I think that's a kind of a creative way of saying, hey, if you're really into basketball, great. Submit for a PTO request. We'll happily grant
Use your
it.
PTO.
Yeah. You know where the
Well,
best
like
place to watch the games are? Your house. Buffalo Wild Wings.
And we're not paying you.
Not on company time.
The other thing is that pick one or two games and have a viewing party. And you could even invite customers or clients, because there are some games, obviously the Final Four. Some of these games start being at night. But the ones that are during the day, hey, that's make it a fun activity.
Yeah,
have
so
a potluck,
Right. By now,
Right.
you'll have the UCLA schedule. So you can, like, pretty much everyone who's listening, mark those games. Those should be, highlighted.
Those are the most important.
And they'll
That's
be
the most
going.
important one,
They'll be
and-
going to the Final Four. So,
Right.
Jack, you can't say that. Don't jinx us. Don't
Knock
jinx
on
us.
wood, everybody.
oh, right. I forget that the sports crowd is like so super.
Very
superficial is almost
superstitious.
what I
Very
said.
superstitious.
Freudian slip.
The other suggestion I have is that most people have these giant big screen TVs anyway in their conference room, right?
Right. Or a projector or something.
Or a projector or something.
Right.
So why not have a policy of viewing but no streaming, meaning we're not going to let you guys stream it and take down our internet.
Right.
But we are going to have it on. So during your breaks or how you schedule your lunch, you're welcome to come in and watch the games that will be going in the break room and put some snacks out, for
Right.
people
Right.
to do.
The reality is this: if you're gonna embrace it, you might as well embrace it and put it on, because
Right.
if you're gonna embrace it as like building morale and team building, you'd rather have everyone in one room
Right.
enjoying the game together
Yeah.
as a group than individually in their cubicles sneakily watching the
Right.
games on their phones and devices. So
Even as someone who wouldn't like necessarily like gravitate towards it on my own, like if the office,
But you can
if everyone was doing it, I'd get into it for sure. Like
Yeah.
if
You're
anyone's
prone
doing
to
it,
peer
everyone's
pressure.
I love peer pressure. Super susceptible.
this is
Why else
great.
would I be wearing this hat?
You don't even know why you are. I mean, you were told to as a
Just
child.
peer pressure, constant, and I love
We
it.
mailed it to you and we told you to put it on or you're off the pod.
Exactly. It was a workplace threat, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to fulfill.
Send help.
but yeah, seriously. But I do think actually that is good, because it's more focused. At least everyone's gonna do it at the same time. Then you'll have
Right.
designated time where people are watching, designated time where people are working, and then also you're getting people together too. I think that actually sounds kind of fun.
Right.
Okay, so what about like people do like brackets or office pools? How do you keep that like in its place?
All right. So here's the deal. Okay. You can fill out a bracket by.
Jeff has like 17.
So twisted.
Patty's brackets are the easiest brackets to fill out, because Patty never in her life has picked an underdog to beat a favored.
And I always win March Madness. I mean, I take
She's-
85% of the
four-
time.
She will have. This is her year, because she will have 4 number one seeds in the Final Four every year.
Alabama.
It's always the same.
I'm gonna have
Yeah.
Kansas.
So,
Houston,
It's pretty
UCLA.
scary.
Maybe
She
pretty.
ends up winning these things all the time. All
She's
of the
like the
family
number one
brackets.
for a reason.
Yeah.
But Jeff, it's not just Jeff Ball doing the brackets and the office pools, right?
No, I mean, over 50 million Americans contribute to some sort of March Madness office pool, betting pool,
That's a
filling out
lot.
brackets. That's a
crazy.
lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And we're not talking just hardcore UCLA fans like us. I mean,
Think about us. Like, there's a hardcore group for every team. For every.
Right.
I love this stat. It's from Wallet Hub. 90% of workers, about 90%, agree
What's
that
Wallet
office
Hub?
pools build better camaraderie. I don't know, like, who would even survey that. But
Wait, that,
what's so funny?
Wallet Hub. What is that?
I don't know.
You made it up.
I did not make it up.
Renowned
It's someone who wants you to go on an online betting.
It's someone just literally trying to get you to go into their betting pool.
It's sponsored by FanDuel. I don't
It's called
know.
Patty's Wallet.
Patty's Wallet Hub.
It's called My Bank Account.
I'm uncomfortable with betting pools. I'm a little bit of
too.
a legal prude about this in the workplace. Jeff and I
Okay.
have some disagreements on
We
it,
have
but
some disagreements. Listen, there's a couple things. One, I will say, I think the betting pools are great for camaraderie because, especially with March Madness, because I've set these up in offices before as the person who's like, we're gonna do this.
even though it's
March
illegal.
Madness-
Oh, sorry. Did I mention
Well,
that?
hold on.
Hold
This is
on.
before we were in employment law, and you're just like, whatever. But these weren't, whatever. The thing is that's great about March Madness brackets. I'm going to advocate for a moment because everyone does it. It's
Okay.
great because you don't have to know a lot about the sport. You get the seeds, you can see how it works, and it's so big that anyone can win it. Anyone can submit one. You don't have to know really anything about the teams. It's all so much of it is luck. I mean,
Right.
every year they say, hey, we'll give $1 million to whoever has a perfect bracket, and it never happens, right? And so it is fun to get people who maybe aren't sports people in on it.
Because you can sucker them out of their money. They don't know who to bet for.
So you see, the numbers are reversed. It's
Yeah.
kind of like
So
like
you
golf
want
or
the
something.
bigger the number, the better the team.
Bigger than so 16's all the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Just be mindful that under most laws, betting pools
That is the
for
carve.
money.
That's okay. This is the carve out that Patty wants us to address, which we're gonna accept, and I agree with. It is most states. It's considered unlawful gambling. Okay.
He's
Now-
I don't know if anyone's gonna
so
come hunt you
sadly.
down
No.
for the $100 betting pool that you have in finance,
Right.
but under the law, it is still unlawful gambling.
Yeah,
in
so
most states.
so just be mindful
Okay.
when you're using your internet for it, that there could be some monitoring. Obviously, I agree with you, Jeff. FBI is not coming knocking down the door for $100. But I'm going to give a couple other options if you are uncomfortable
Right.
about it. First of all, there's no problem if your staff want to set it up and it's not
Yep.
a company sponsored betting pool. I mean, that's okay. If Jeff
Just
Ball
say in
wants
the
to set it
just
up,
to say in the past, that was me. I was the guy who was like, "Hey, this is not an office sponsored
Right.
event. This is Ball Enterprises event."
but if I hear
your
that a department manager is collecting $1,000 per person as an entry fee to that manager's betting pool,
Yeah, you go, what?
Yeah, it could get weird pretty quick.
That's a pretty fast turn to something a little weird.
Another option is to say it's going to be not cash as the winner, but maybe some gifts like a Yeti cooler or I don't know,
Yeah.
UCLA hat or something like that.
Right.
Another option is to say the winnings actually go to the winner's charitable, organization of their
Which
choosing.
is Ball
I
Enterprises.
like
LLC.
that. That's kind of fun.
Yeah. I don't love that.
I mean,
I don't love it.
The guy
but
at that
I
party
could
would
see
love it. When
the
he's
guy
trying to pay his
his
rent.
rent money.
That guy would have lost his mind.
I like that. I think that's a good idea.
That guy did scare me. um, okay, so if you have a plan, right, about what you're gonna do for March Madness, how do you enforce it? Like, how do you actually keep everybody wrangled?
Okay, so the first thing is to decide what you're going to do, what you're going to allow, what you're not going to allow, and
Right.
clear it with HR to make sure, if you're a manager, that clear it with HR to make sure it's legal, and then communicate that in an email to people about what our expectations are, what activities we are going to permit, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and make sure you're very clear on that, and it is distributed ahead of time, not 3 days in when you're torqued off about everyone being distracted.
Not doing enough work. Right.
Right.
All right, so
Right,
try to
you-
get ahead of it. Just
Yes.
Yeah, get ahead of it. I mean, and if you're listening to this on Monday, you're fine. You got time. You can do this.
yeah, you can just quickly. If you wait
But
till last
get
minute,
it-
it only takes a minute. And that's the truth.
Exactly. Get ahead of it. Address the viewing on the phones or checking phones. I mean, that's really like the brackets are one thing, and,
Yeah.
and as Patty says, as long as it's not office sponsored,
Mm-hmm.
right, or it's not getting $1,000 from all of a sudden Ryan's getting all of his interns to do the $1,000 pool. As long as it's not weird, but the
So long
viewing
as
is
you
really
do
the
the
big
pool.
issue as well. Is like address that, saying, hey, we know that people are gonna want to watch it. We're gonna have it on in the conference room, or we're gonna have this game on, but we ask that you don't use
Jeff,
Wi-Fi.
Right.
I
or
had
PTO.
one client
Right.
that said, we don't need a policy. We're just going to let everyone do their thing. And I'm changing the name, but Riley called me and was like, oh my gosh, we didn't verify that we had enough internet for this. And it just crashed the whole system. And so then they all ended up going to a local restaurant, sports bar, and just watched the games because they could not work. And so just make sure, first of all, that whatever you want to do, you actually have the...
Right.
I don't know
bandwidth to do
computers,
it.
the bandwidth, yes.
Is it
Right.
bandwidth?
Uh-huh.
The other suggestion I have is if you're going to have a party, potluck, whatever. I'm big on potlucks, you know that.
Oh yeah.
But obviously, watch the trash talking. When people,
Oh.
if you're not serving alcohol, that's probably going to be less of a problem. But people get a little emotional during the games, especially if they are really allegiant to their team. So you're going to
A
have
little.
to watch the madness of March escalation. So
I think
Right.
that's
No,
part
the-
of it too, is just having a place to put all those big feelings, those big human feelings into the big game.
Jack, are you
Listen, we're
implying
not-
that we have big human feelings when we
we're not
watch UCLA?
Yes, I remember
We're
I'd
not
be
the only
upstairs
fans brainwashed,
No.
right?
I'd be upstairs
Oh.
watching Hannah Montana during March Madness and just hear huge screaming, and I would run down thinking, "There's an intruder, and I'm ready to
It's
fight.
an intruder.
I'm ready to fight. I'm 12, but I am stronger than I look."
And you had your Harry Potter wand, and you
yeah,
were
well,
ready.
that was the main weapon.
yeah.
Can't leave home without it.
Nope.
The last thing I will say this as a consideration that you do want to be, because not everyone's going to be a basketball fan. Not everyone's going to be
Right.
as excited as maybe us about it. So you do need to be inclusive in all these events. Send it out, open invitation for everyone to join or participate. But you don't want to exclude people who may just not be into March Madness, and that's fine.
Right.
That's
It's fine. It's just
okay. It's fine. Whatever. But
whatever you need to do.
but you have to be be inclusive. Make sure everyone gets an invite. Everyone's invited to the potluck.
Yeah.
So-
right.
I'm excited. I'm ready to go.
Even though
my
I give
office is shutting for 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Kidding.
While I give it a hard time, I actually do love March Madness. I think it's really fun. I think it's a
Right.
good one.
The buzzer beaters. Gotta love them.
Yeah, they're
But,
great.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. It's college sports, and
And if you don't think it's great, peer pressure will lead you to believe. To
peer
change your
pressure
mind.
will help you be swayed to watching it.
So yeah, just
peer
think
pressure
about
makes
it.
all of our lives better.
It's
Well,
fantastic.
go UCLA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bottom line,
Thank you.
go Bruins. We'll be posting our brackets on
Mm-hmm.
our Instagram, so check it
So
out.
if you want to look at
And,
that,
if you want to look at that, submit your bracket. Let us know who you picked, or write us. Let us know who you picked to win the whole thing.
And for clients, if you want to put together an email and have us review it before you send it out to
Yep.
people, feel free to do that. We're happy to look at it. And we hope you guys have an amazing March Madness first start of the week. And we will see you next week.
see you next
all
week.
right.
Okay.
See you next week.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Managing Mayhem is presented by Management Northwest and Management Southwest and cannot be copied or rebroadcast without prior written consent. By listening to this podcast, you understand that we, or at least two of us, are lawyers, but we are not your lawyers. Therefore, nothing we say on the podcast should be taken as legal advice or considered to create an attorney-client relationship. It is solely meant for your educational and informational purposes. The podcast should not be used as a substitute for legal advice from an attorney licensed in your state. Please be aware that listening to lawyers can cause side effects such as migraine, self-doubt, and also may cure insomnia. But you know what? Trust your own judgment or you're not your mom.